Hello everyone, reporting from VivaTech. I'm going to present to you the new study from Artifact, the future of agentic supervision. This study follows on from the previous one, the future of work with AI, where we surveyed a large panel of companies and concluded that the future of work with AI is mainly about supervising agents in order to manage potential incidents, but also how to ensure that the agents of tomorrow deliver the expected value to businesses. An agent, if you don't know, is like software, but it's built around large language models, which have reasoning abilities, memory, but above all, are capable of taking actions autonomously. These new agents, they somewhat disrupt the field of governance because, in fact, the agents are probabilistic and zero risk will not exist. And so we are going to have to manage it. What does it mean to manage it? It means finding the right balance between the value of these agents and the risk. If we want to restrict an agent too much, to have zero risk, we'll also lose the value. So we need to find that balance. And the study on supervision aims to explain to companies how to organize themselves both in terms of people, processes, and tools around this supervision in order to achieve the perfect balance desired by the business teams when deploying their agents. Value is both the value brought to the process, but also, for example, usage if the agent is a chatbot type agent. And the risks are multiple. These can simply be quality risks, such as hallucinations where the agent doesn't do what is expected of it. But there can also be reputational risks, especially if an agent starts insulting someone, for example, which is not what we want. But there are also security risks. Some people might try to break into systems through agents. And so it's necessary to stop such attacks. And finally, there are simply cost risks, just like before. You have to manage, maybe you can build an extremely robust agent, but if it becomes too expensive, well, it's not very appealing anymore. To succeed in finding this balance between value and cost, you need to be able to measure the value and the cost across all the dimensions we discussed earlier. And here, well, there's no change compared to before. To measure, there are always 3 steps. You observe, you evaluate, and finally, when there are alerts and problems, you have to make decisions, you have to address the issues or decide to improve the agents, and that's what we call active supervision. In this study, we examined all the tools listed below: Weights and Biases, LangSmith, Prisma, LangChain, Robust Intelligence, Ragus, and DeepEvo. We also studied others, and we realized that all these tools were structured in the same way in the pure continuity of DevOps. So this new stack of tools, which fits into the continuity of DevOps, DataOps, and MLOps, is the subject of this study, where we try to popularize the report and explain how business teams and technicians can use them together in collaboration. A first important point is that AI governance, putting AI under control, is done together with the business side, and this starts from the very birth of the agent babies. At the exploration stage, it will be necessary to define value and risk indicators. At the design stage, it will be necessary to build ground truth data sets, the source of truth. If we want the agent to behave in a certain way, we'll have to show it the way and provide the right answers to the right questions. Finally, an agent's life continues as long as it is being improved, and the technical teams must be able to deploy improvements to your agents at a steady pace. To do this, they need to have clear rules on whether or not they are allowed to deploy these agents based on the agent's evaluation and control metrics. Finally, during operations, we also need agents since incident zero risk do not exist. There will be incidents, so we need to anticipate them, plan remediation workflows, and set up teams to supervise the agents in operation. What's notable is that testing agents, even though it looks a lot like software testing, is actually fundamentally different. When we test software, we check that the implemented logic is correct. So we set up a series of unit tests, and if all the tests pass, if they're all green, if they are at 100%, then we deploy. This is no longer the case with a probabilistic agent. We'll have success rates for each metric or failure rates for the risks, and we need to decide on minimum thresholds or targets to reach in order to put an agent into production. These thresholds can't be decided by the technical teams alone. It's a collaboration between the business side and the development teams to determine the deployment and improvement logic for agents on each metric. So this is a slide that shows you an example of different metrics, all of which can range from 0 to 100%. And we'll need to decide with a clear governance rule whether or not we move to production. And that's the big new aspect of agent supervision throughout their entire life cycle. Now, it can be quite difficult to evaluate an agent that writes text. Fortunately, we have something called LLM as a judge. It might seem a bit paradoxical, but we use AI to judge AI. Some people in interviews have told us, but that's not possible, it won't work. You can't be both judge and party. In fact, if we use different models for the judge and the agent and the agent itself, we get some robustness from that. And then there's something very profound that needs to be understood. Generating text is a very complex task. Or on the other hand, making a binary judgment, it's good, it's not good. That's much, much simpler. And LLMs do very well at judging the quality of another LLM, especially when it's independent. So we encourage all our clients to use LLM as a judge to measure and evaluate the quality of their agents, but that's not enough. You need to add safeguards, guardrails in English. What is a guardrail? It's a safeguard, a piece of code often deterministic, but not all values that you can place at the input or output of the LLM. On the input side, for example, it can be used to block a malicious request. On the output side, it helps prevent mistakes. For example, sending money to an account. These guardrails need to be implemented right from the start of an agent. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. We'll end up with an unreliable agent. On the other hand, if the guardrails or safeguards are too strict, you kill the value. You might have an agent that hesitates because it's stopped every time, has to start over, and that creates significant latency. You could also end up with a confused agent that would rather say nothing at all than risk making a mistake. So the idea is to start by developing safeguards to ensure the agent's reliability. And then as you improve the agent, gradually loosen those safeguards a bit to increase its value. And this work from the top left towards the middle and the optimal agent is something that needs to be done collaboratively between business teams and technical teams, leveraging all the metrics measured by the agent of stack. Finally, in production, despite all precautions, there will always be incidents, and you need to plan for human supervision teams for when the safeguards escalate incidents to those teams. These teams, this is their new job. Before, they used to do what the agents did. Tomorrow, they'll be supervising the agents. This work needs to be more enjoyable than before. What these teams typically ask for is that the agent sends them a rich and structured context about what happened within the agent. Next, they want easy-to-use tools that will help them make the right decisions on a case-by-case basis. Finally, it is crucial that agents need to route incoming incidents in a balanced and equitable way, so as not to completely burn out their dedicated teams, but also to intelligently and effectively route these critical incidents to the very best and most appropriate experts available. Finally, and this is very important, this supervision work is an opportunity to collect human notes, to gather the so-called ground truth data sets, these sources of truth that in turn help improve the agents. Here is an example of a human annotation interface that a supervision team can use. Finally, on the technical team side, they need easy-to-use tools. For example, when it comes to security, a single security tool won't be enough. You'll actually need 3. One to help improve the agents, another to act as a safeguard and which is independent from the first, otherwise there's a risk of feedback loops and of an agent learning to bypass its safeguard. And finally, a third system is needed to measure security independently from the first. To conclude, companies will need to organize themselves around AI and establish their governance so that everyone can work together from end to end. We have 4 practical pieces of advice to offer companies. First, even though there is a lot of work to be done, it needs to be carried out on real projects. And these are not throwaway projects. We recommend working on agents where there is a real commitment to seeing things through, to achieving production level quality. So choose agents that are at the heart of your strategic processes. When you build these agents, you should also take the opportunity to establish proper governance to ensure these agents function effectively, making sure there is clear and tangible value to be gained and differentiation in the market. That's the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is that all these tools should be designed first and foremost for your tech teams. Metrics are very important. They are not easy to implement. So even if some tools offer you very attractive dashboards, think first about your tech teams to ensure that the metrics are collected properly and frequently. Third, the supervision teams will be numerous, and we recommend organizing them by type of risk: legal risk, operational risk, marketing and reputational risk. And these different teams will probably have to manage multiple agents. Instead of creating a supervision team for each agent, the vision for the future is to organize supervision teams by the company's functional domain. Finally, your AgentOps stack should not exist in isolation from the rest of your operational infrastructure. And in particular, we strongly believe it should be seamlessly integrated with your DataOps stack, forming a cohesive and powerful system. In fact, most of the incidents we see today with agents are caused by poor quality data. So it will be necessary to measure data quality at scale to ensure that when an incident occurs, we can tell whether it's an issue with the agent or with the data. Agents will reveal data quality issues at scale, and you can take advantage of implementing agent governance to strengthen your data governance as well. If you found this presentation interesting and insightful, we strongly encourage you to carefully read the comprehensive full study. We will soon publish it online along with a living bibliography that will allow you to keep learning about this ever-evolving topic.